In this video, I'll uncover the top 3 reasons that you could destroy your health in 2023. Hey Wellness Warrior, I'm Dr. Zyrowski, and you're probably thinking that I have 3 top foods that are going to destroy your health. But when I really thought about this topic, I realized looking at food is kind of downstream compared to the really root cause of much of the issues that we face in healthcare today. Because the decisions that you're going to make in your home have to come from somewhere. And so we have to really go to the root cause of where are you getting the information to make these decisions on prescriptions, make decisions on the foods that you're eating or the medical procedures that you're getting done, right? So I broke it down into 3 main categories as to what could destroy your health in 2023. And the first one is going to be medical misinformation. Now you're thinking, yeah, probably somebody putting a tweet out there giving me bad advice. No, not like that. Medical misinformation that's coming from places like your government, for instance. You know, over the past 2 years, the government has really involved themselves in healthcare. And the reality is that we found that they're really bad at it, because as the research continues to pour out from around the world, we're finding that they gave a lot of bad advice, right? And so we have to be careful of that, right? I think that maybe at the most macro level, healthcare decisions are maybe decided upon at a statewide level, and then at a more macro or micro place where healthcare decisions should really only be made, that's between the doctor and the patient. Assuming the doctor has the best interest at heart for his patient and the patient chose that doctor because of that reason, then together they come and make a decision, right? But having like a top-down approach is not a good thing, and it hasn't worked out well. So I think that over the next year, we'll see a ton of investigations on these very topics of everything that's occurred over the past 2 years. And I think that we're going to probably see some pretty alarming stuff, to be honest. Now, the next big problem when we look at medical misinformation is just corporations, right? Like you have Pfizer, which has made over $100 billion in profits over the past 2 years. And the reality is they have a lot of money to throw around in order to have influence, whether it's in the government or whether it's in educational institutions, right? And this is something that's important to understand, because these different companies that have a lot of money, they're in the business of making their stockholders happy, but not necessarily making patients happy, right? And let me give you an example of how corporate influence can be involved in an educational system, right? Because our academics is really what is shaping policy around healthcare, right? There's an article in The Guardian, and it says, newly released documents show an influential group that helps shape U.S. food policy and steers consumer towards nutritional products has financial ties to the world's largest processed food companies and has been controlled by former industry employees who have worked for companies like Monsanto. The documents revealed that the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics has a record of quid pro quos with a range of food giants, owns stocks in ultra-processed food companies, and has received millions in contributions from producers of pop candy and processed foods linked to diabetes, heart disease, obesity, and other health problems. Now, if you can't believe the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, like who are you supposed to believe, right? Well, of course, you would believe your family physician. Except there's only one problem there, is that medical doctors don't receive any type of training in diet nutrition. I have best friends that are medical doctors. They don't receive any training in diet nutrition, yet everybody is going to them looking for that type of advice, right? And so when you go there and you have an inflammatory issue or diabetes, you're given pills. You're not actually given advice on how to reverse it. And so we look at the stranglehold that some of these big corporations have over healthcare, over the institutions, and then of course we look at a lot of bad actors that are giving bad information, which you're taking to your home and not only raising your kids off of, but also feeding yourself and making healthcare decisions for yourself off of. So it's a little bit dangerous. So that's why we're talking about this, right? You have to be able to really understand that, like, there's a lot of people who don't have your best interest in mind, okay? But we're going to move on from that. And now let's talk about moving on from the misinformation category and talk about another issue that's out there. And that is this agenda to push a plant-based diet, okay? This is really crazy. And there's this big lie that using any type of animal-based products is very unhealthy for you. There's all types of Netflix documentaries which don't even give you the whole picture. It's like, well, this person had cheese and burgers, and they had bacon and all these meat products, and they developed heart disease, but they forgot to mention that they also ate donuts and candy bars and drank soda and ate copious amounts of sugar, right? So they never tell you the whole picture. They just kind of like take this one little piece and they twist these ideas and then try to make you think something, right? So the idea that an animal-based diet or a diet that has a lot of animal-based products in it is dangerous is really silly. And to kind of like further drive this point home, there was some research put together by Tufts University, and they put together this thing called the Food Compass. And the Food Compass is actually being used to shape policy on eating in the United States. Now, what they found in the Food Compass is that things like ground beef, cheddar cheese, and a fried egg and butter is far more unhealthy than things like canned peaches, which are loaded with sugar, Cheerios, which is like an ultra-processed garbage junk food, or even Lucky Charms, okay? I mean, could you imagine somebody actually telling you that like ground beef is unhealthy and eating Lucky Charms is healthy? Like, this is bizarre, but this is like the real deal. Like, you might even think I'm joking because it sounds so ridiculous, but it's true. And then to further drive this point home, to even sound more ridiculous with more fact, which sounds more like fiction, there's a lot of places around the world pushing a bug diet, right? So there was an article in Reuters, and they took larvae and they're basically blending them up and they're calling it insect butter. There's an article in CNN talking about cockroach milk and how it's so great for you, right? Beyond that, we had the BBC talking about crickets being the future of food. And then in places in Germany, they're actually selling burgers made of worms, okay? So this stuff is all real and it's being pushed on you, and it's being pushed on you like it's a good idea, right? I take care of patients all the time who are on plant-based diets, and they come in with a ton of health issues. The most common health issue is obesity, following a plant-based diet. You're like, how do you follow a plant-based diet and have obesity issues? Yeah, well, because they're eating junk food all the time, because it turns out a lot of junk foods are plant-based. And then the other issue is they're eating copious amounts of sugar to compensate for the fact that their diet is very much lacking in a lot of different nutritional categories. So what happens is that many people are struggling trying to follow a plant-based diet because they don't know their way around it. And I'm not saying that plant-based diets are impossible to follow and follow well, but they're very difficult to. And most individuals do not have the proper information to do so. So we have to be very wary of the different information we're listening to out there. Now, the third thing that I believe is going to be a big problem in 2023 is just bad information on social media. I mean, there was this viral TikTok trend that went around, and it was people cooking chicken in NyQuil. They were calling it sleepy chicken, and it was gonna help them sleep better at night. It's like so bizarre, but there's stuff that is like on the extreme end like that. But then there's also just a lot of laughable information that comes from people who claim to be health gurus on the internet. You know, it's kind of interesting to me because, you know, there was a time where I thought, you know, maybe I will just continue to do a lot of information online, like YouTube videos and on social media to help the masses, right? But I thought it would be so disingenuous for me to give health information if I'm not actually in patient care. So I was thinking I could stop patient care and do this, but I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I'm not even in the field at that point, right? So I continue to do patient care because it educates me in a way that you can't get educated by just going and reading articles on Google, right? So I'm not saying that everybody who is giving information needs to be a doctor, because I don't think that's the case. I actually think that could be dangerous if that was the case, right? We need just people who are interested in health out there giving information, right? Information on how to raise a healthy family, information on how to eat healthy, right? That's all great. But a lot of it tends to be information that's not great, because you have a lot of people who have never even been involved in healthcare or, you know, decision making in patient care or helping people overcome conditions, giving advice as if it's real. So, like I said, I see a lot of stuff that's laughable. But with all that said, whenever it comes down to making decisions in your own personal health, you just have to make sure that you have done your own research and that you are understanding that there's a lot of bad actors who don't necessarily have your best interest at heart. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there who are giving information to sell products that are not good quality, not going to lead you in the direction you want with your health, and not even benefit you in any way, right? So let's make sure that we're doing our research in 2023 so we can have the healthiest year ever, right? It starts with diet, it starts with exercise, it starts with making sure that you're well informed. I'm Dr. Zyrowski. I hope you found this educational. If you like this video, watch this one over here.